it's hard, like you say, right, to
Mwanga.
know that you have someone who could who could represent your country, right? He's one of the best players in the world. He was the best 10 at the Rugby World Cup in my eyes.
Mm.
And he's not able to play for your country, but he's just sitting out there. And, he went to the England test, and he said, oh, I wish I was out there kind of thing.
Good day and welcome to the Green and Gold podcast, where we talk all things rugby and all things green and gold. First of all, let me start by introducing myself. I'm Wasim, one of the hosts of the podcast, and of course, as usual, I'm going to let the co-host introduce himself over there.
Hey, Saeed Mohammed, yeah, of course, fabulous weekend. But we're not going to get into that at the moment. We're just having a beautiful spring on the 1st of September, but it's a bit overcast. I don't know if it's the guest that has brought in the bit of the darkness.
The blackness,
into
to the
the
city.
Cape. But Mr. Fredericks, over to you, and I think you need to do the honors to introduce our
Yeah,
guest.
exactly. To shine some light on a very, very cloudy day, we've got an All Black, right, that has been making her rounds on various social media platforms. I think I first saw it during the Rugby World Cup on my FYP as I was scrolling, trying to get some hype for the big game, which was All Blacks versus Springboks at the time. But ever since, she's been trolling the Rugby Championship Instagram and doing all things that is needed. So without any further ado, we'd like to welcome Miss Ella Ferguson. Round of applause there. Let's just try to give her some hype. I don't know if my claps are probably going to be muted. A very good evening, your side. How are you doing, Ella?
That was quite the introduction. I feel like my legacy will be trolling the Sanzar Rugby Championship Instagram account. But thank you for having me, everyone, on this fine evening, my time, afternoon, there in South Africa.
Yeah,
Wow,
man,
I actually realized it was evening your side. I just suppose it's still like morning. It's not midday by us now. And apologies and thank you so much for staying up.
That's okay. I'm just training myself for the weekend. I'm in like South African time zone essentially mentally because those 3 a.m. wake ups are kind of killer.
Exactly, it's more of a killer, I think, if you wake up that early in the morning and it's for a result that never exactly went your way. So ladies and gents, to speak about that, we have to speak about it, Ella. We have to speak about it.
That's fine. I understand.
It's what happened the weekend. But Mr. Mohammed, that win, it never came easy, not at all, right?
Not at all. I think first of all, before we get into the crux of things, to all our New Zealand people that we're tuning into, to Ella's beautiful social media presence, we just want to apologize for the interference for the haka. As a South African and Springbok supporter, number one, that it was disrespectful. And it looks like Saru came up with an apology and it got accepted from our fellow colleagues, New Zealand Rugby. So I hope our fellow All Black supporters can accept that as well, because we don't tolerate that disrespect, because the haka for us is amazing. We love it. We know it's beyond rugby. Yeah, it's beyond rugby. So just to that disclaimer out there. But other than that, amazing. That's what you get when the two giants are versing one another. It was like a World Cup final. You're not going to get an expansive game. You're going to get a game of chess.
Exactly.
Back and forth.
But what you were stating, that there was a moment there where I thought that it's going to be a bit of a runaway. I got a flashback, a hint of a 26.
So did I.
I got a hint of a 2016 All Blacks versus Springboks there. I was like, oh gosh, I'm reliving my childhood trauma here. But luckily we managed to draw one. We managed to actually draw it in there, and we managed to get the win. So looking at it now, clearly from that read that was made by Mr. Geordie Parrott over there, do you think it was a matter of the Springboks trying to play a little too much rugby, trying to be a little bit too expansive? Where was it that we actually lost the game for a huge part of the game?
Is this for me or for Ella?
Guys, you can really jump in. There's no script.
I'm
asking, is it there? It looks like it was. You can say whether you saw the same thing.
I think for us, we we play the same line all the time. Everybody, I think, coming out of the break, probably the call to Jody, and Jody, of course, could see it that the crash was going to see her all the time.
Yeah.
And Jody being one of the most experienced players that are currently in the All Blacks and the phenomenal player that he is, it wasn't hard to read. Even us as a spectator could see
Mm.
that. Okay, she has taken the ball on. She has taken the ball on.
It
Goes back to back.
looked rehearsed, man. It looked rehearsed. They weren't even looking at one and another. They were just like, okay, you know what? Sia is supposed to swoop around me now. He's supposed to do that. And I think the All Blacks were able to read that script quite clearly. But on your side, Miss Ella, how did it look? Did it remind you? Did you think you were on the verge of, New Zealand wrapping up another famous win at Ellis Park?
Yeah, I did for a good, I think when we scored that try after halftime, I was like, okay, I feel much more safe at this kind of distance from the Springboks. But I think most All Black fans who have been following, I guess, the Springboks this year know that this is a team pretty near the peak of its powers at the moment with a very high ceiling. And you don't have that same feeling about the All Blacks in terms of us being able to put people away as clinically as we used to. So there was a bit of fear.
Really?
My partner was, yeah, I think so, which is maybe less of an indictment of the All Blacks and more that just rugby is so competitive at that top level at the moment.
Exactly.
But my partner next to me was like, nah, this is safe. And I was like, no, they're coming back. It was at Ellis Park. Like, listen to that crowd. There was no way they weren't going to try and save that game any way they could. Yeah. So no, it was, look, an incredible game of rugby. The All Blacks will be kicking themselves because I think they really were in the winning position. But some positives to take away for sure.
You know, it's weird that you are saying you had a feeling that the Springboks might actually sneak it in again because of what you've been seeing. But what's weird is that I know earlier on I spoke of childhood trauma and us being so used to when the All Blacks get that lead, it's gonna be extremely hard to try and actually get it again. It's kind of in me already to see when I get when the All Blacks are more than a try ahead. That's when I start getting nervous. And Mr. Mohammed, you can probably relate to that also after all because of that history, man, of us being so used to being on the back foot, right? Essentially, when it's against the All Blacks.
Yeah, to comment on that, I just, like you said, this childhood trauma. When I saw that happening, I still had my in-laws sitting by me watching the game. And they were like, they're done, we're gone. And I was like, can't be, man, we can't. This is not how we envision this. We're on the prime of where we are. And it always used to be back then, Ella, you guys used to play 80-minute rugby.
Exactly.
Especially when you came to the Springboks, come to the 60-minute, we know, we pumped out, we're done.
Yeah.
New Zealand would come back there with the Israel Dags and Ricky Hani's coming in on that last few tries and last 20 minutes.
Exactly.
And I feel like the tables have turned. And I have the problem. Of course, the thing is that you guys are rebuilding right now. But at the same time, I feel like there's so much politics, backroom nonsense that is happening that is affecting your team. Whether it be from the coaching, whether it be your best players are not actually within the country. Like, I personally believe, and this is probably people's gonna hate me for this, but D-Mac is not the 10 for me. Richie is your 10. He is the GOAT.
100%, yeah.
And now, probably one of the best 10s in the world, coming from a Springbok supporter currently, on form, and we're not playing him. Like, help me, like, justify that for me. Like,
I agree. I agree with it, and that is what we are seeing, and I think everybody on the side also agrees. I mean, I think we're going to speak about it a little bit more, but we've got quite a bit of New Zealand supporters here with us. They have a lot of supporters, and everybody's in fact, when we watched the game of the weekend, we were viewing the game in the lounge, and half of my family supports the Springboks and half of them support the All Blacks.
Yeah.
And they're all screaming out for Richie McCaw. So what are the people on your side? How are they feeling? Do they feel like D-Mac is the man? Is it Richie McCaw? Or the other problems?
Moaga.
It's hard, like you say, right? To know that you have someone who could represent your country, right? He's one of the best players in the world. He was the best 10 at the Rugby World Cup in my eyes. And he's not able to play for your country, but he's just sitting out there. And, you know, he went to the England test, you know, and he said, oh, I wish I was out there kind of
He
thing.
was in the box,
I
yeah.
think that is hard. Yeah, it is hard to justify that you don't have all of your best players necessarily playing for your team. But that has always been the case for New Zealand rugby, right? Like, people have gone offshore and, you know, think about maybe even Lester Fainga'anuku, who is 23 and playing in Toulon, you know, he could come back. But so that is something we have to grapple with. In saying that, I came into this season very much being like, D-Mac's not the guy for me either, right? I was like, I feel like he has, you know, a noted quite erratic game style, and I guess he hadn't seen an All Blacks team that had an attack structure built around that. But I do think I've fallen into the camp that I think Rusty is also in at the moment. That's called give the 10 time in the seat.
Exactly.
And so I'm totally willing to give D-Mac a whole season of being our starting number 10, because he hasn't had that before in the All Blacks, and we should learn from what happened with Richie Mo'unga, where for a number of seasons he was not given the keys. He was pulled back and forth. It was Bodie, it was Richie, it was Bodie, it was D-Mac, it was Richie, and how is he meant to get confidence at a test level with that? So I'm fully supportive of the D-Mac experiment. I actually thought Saturday was his best game at
he had a good game on Saturday. He was a nightmare on Saturday.
So it'll be interesting to see what his game at 10 looks like come maybe November, right? That end of year tour, when he's really kind of grown as a 10 at test level. He is by no means the finished product, but I feel more excited about that prospect of him as our 10 now.
And Ella, you know, with us not viewing Super Rugby, let alone with us not even seeing rugby, a Super Rugby, is there another fly-off that you could say, you know, you willing to give him also a chance and let him also make mistakes? Is there anyone really that you could say, you know what, let's rather trial out this guy?
To add on to that, your number 9 situation as well, because of course after Smith leaving, we had TJ came back and had to be that experienced number 9 for the young guns. Same question that applies to the 9, which is
I
think
so
they have
10s are interesting. We've got Stephen Petafeta, who's been with the squad, but he's injured at the moment. He's the Blues 10, but also plays a lot of 15. Also with the squad at the moment is Harry Plummer, who's also the Blues 10. He's been plugging away in Super Rugby for a long time, and I don't think he's like an X Factor 10, but he was very good for the Blues this season, and he's kind of grown into a bit of cult status. There are a lot of people calling for the Plummer to be in the All Blacks, and he's there as injury cover now. Another exciting prospect who plays, I think, predominantly a lot more fullback, but can play 10 is Ruben Love, who's also in the squad, and
I've actually
of an All Black in a long time.
Regularly,
and then you're kind of dropping, you know, quite a bit further down, I think, in terms of 10s. Josh Jackham, he played a bit for Chiefs this season. People rate him, but that would be quite a big jump. In terms of 9s, it's crazy. Just thinking about, you know, when Aaron Smith was leaving and we were all like, it's okay, guys, Cam Roigard, the anointing of Cam Roigard. And then, you know, disastrous injuries. So halfback is interesting. You know, people are pretty big fans of Folau Fakatava down at the Highlanders. But he's had some time in All Black camp, I think maybe in like 2020. But I don't know if he's that guy. But yeah, Cam is meant to be back for the I think aiming for the Japan test in October. So I think when Cam comes back, and then obviously with TJ Perenara going out or leaving New Zealand rugby and going to Japan next year permanently. So that opens up a very young line.
So from what you're explaining now, it looks like they might actually be a little bit more experimenting come year in tour, you know, against the Northern Hemisphere sides, which should be really nice to actually see, because like I said, when you were explaining all of those options now, it was like a lesson to us really, because we're so out of touch with regards to what's happening with Super Rugby. I guess, exactly.
Like we have the same. Yeah.
I was just thinking now. I was watching one of these planets, and they were saying the space the Springboks are in now is where New Zealand was. I think about a few years ago in the 2013 to 2015 era when
Mm.
they could go. They went to the Grand Slam, won everything, and they made 14 changes before every game. They could probably play two
Ridiculous.
matches a week and still beat the top nations. And I think as a Springbok sport, it's quite hard so to see like New Zealand rugby in the current state. Not, don't get me wrong, in how you guys are playing, still to keep up with us considering your circumstances. Well done,
Yeah.
considering what's happening in the back room, etc. But that was never going to be taken away from Springboks and All Blacks derbies. But it's just so sometimes we see that like the structure and the growth, and we were in this position prior to 2019.
Well, worse. Far
We were
worse.
worse. We were losing to Japan. We were losing to Italy. It was
Yeah.
But
so.
that's what I've had to tell myself this week, right? Is that I literally said, I was saying to my dad, Russie's Rome wasn't built in a day. Russie's Springboks had to go through a 57-0 loss to the All Blacks, and look where they are now. Like, what we know as All Blacks fans from that period of dominance is not normal. That is not normal. It'll
Yeah.
probably never happen again. So we need to go through this period of adjustment and change and be patient
And
and just know
growth.
that there is a long-term plan and growth. And then look, the Springboks are the perfect example of what can happen, and it's a testament to Russie and his vision and his effort and bringing those players with him, because there's players in that team still who were in the team who lost the All Blacks 57-0, you know, who would have
No,
thought they'd be
there's
back-to-back world champions after that.
there's many of them. But speaking about the team this weekend on your side, Ella, I know last week there was big hype about Mr. Sam Cane, playing his redemption game. But I almost feel like last week was that game. Would you like to see him again? Does he get another opportunity to kind of redeem himself, or was last week the opportunity? And would you like to see him
I
again? Or
think, yeah, I would. I know, obviously, yeah, that we didn't get enough camera angles on it, that shot on Khaleesi, I think, to determine what actually happened. I know Khaleesi
Mm.
obviously has a fractured cheekbone. Some
Is it
people
there?
saying
Was there a
he had it
shot on
when he went
Khaleesi?
down.
I'm joking.
Well, there was a penalty for it, so it did get,
Weird that you
But
mentioned that. Was it
but
last week
anyway,
or the
my
World
point
Cup?
is, I would.
joking. I'm
Oh,
joking.
Kane. I would like to see him there again. He was our second highest tackle count. And
Yeah.
I think he is the physical presence we need at the breakdown against a team like Springboks. And his leadership is invaluable. Not to say that Dalton Papali'i couldn't perform.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a case for Papali'i starting, Kane on the bench. But yeah, I think Sam Kane needs to be there.
Hectic, hectic. So we'll see. I guess the guys are going to make us. Well, we usually have our team announcement quite early in the week, but they're going to make us wait a little bit longer, right, Mr. Mohammed, this week.
Yeah, pure Rasi genius. He's now playing on the Sia card. That he's
Sia
waiting for
card.
Sia. But
Last week it
if
was
it
the Ibn
was
card, huh?
truly, yeah, no, but if it was truly Sia, then why didn't he pull the same move what he did with Eben? He's name it squad and say, listen, if Eben is ready, we'll just slot him in and then.
Ach man, it's
So
just
it's
so
definitely
lot of.
mind games, but that's why we love Rasi. We love him. We
He's
love him.
dramatic, man. He's dramatic.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited for this weekend. It's like I said, this is World Cup final vibes, man.
It
That is
really
what I'm getting
is.
from it, and they're going with we did what's it what's the saying that they said that Serco and said was if we win the last one, we win it all. So
The
it's
last try wins, huh?
yeah, basically the last try
I
wins.
think that's the win,
So
and it really is like that, you know.
so I'm very excited
It
to see how
stings.
this
The
one is
last
going
one
to turn out.
stings. Look, I would ask you to predict. I would have also said who I expect to see, but to be honest with you, I don't even know who to expect to see this weekend because I tried to think, are they gonna give Mani a go, seeing that it's his home and he hasn't played fly off, and he played fly off last week for VP for the Western Province team. Are they going to let him play this weekend? But honestly, I don't have a clue what to expect
Hmm.
because he did mention in Saturday's a post match that he would like to experiment again. And when you say experiment, what does that mean? I, I, I
I
honestly
was
don't
doing
know.
some
What do you
I
think is
was
going to
doing
be in the
some
starting?
I did some research, like, and they were saying that Rassie is going to make some few changes, but he says he doesn't want it to be at the expense of a losing the championship, man.
Yeah.
However, I think as a Springbok supporter, confidently I can say is that we are somewhat in that position to make a few changes. Whereas I don't see much changes coming from the All Blacks. I am questioning Ricky's. Ricky had a poor game on the weekend. I'm a big fan of Ricky, but I didn't see him like part of the game.
Oh,
Just so.
Rico. I was thinking, who's Ricky? I was like, is it Ricky
Sorry,
January?
sorry. So Rico, do you play him on the 13? Do you give Avalia, like would you put on the 13? Or are you okay with the current performance and quality of
I
Rico?
thought Rico was good. I thought Rico was good, but he also
He
played a bit
gets
on
a
the
lot of
wing.
hate.
Um,
I also I don't understand it.
I
I
think
think
people love him on the wing is the thing, right? They love
Mm.
seeing highlights reel Rico, and obviously playing in the centres is less of that. So I think people struggle to reconcile those two different
Yeah,
styles of play.
that's
I
probably it. Yeah.
personally, and Rico's so strong offensively in the centre. I think that's a
Exactly.
real
here we
strength.
go. So
And
I
I
think that's
think,
where I'm sitting at is that if I when I rewatched the game, I didn't see much
Mm.
creativity from the New Zealanders this game. It was a lot of all the tries that came from New Zealand was at the mistake of the Springboks. Uh, and a lot more attack came from us, which we didn't execute.
mm,
All of it.
there's a lot of handling
And
errors.
that's yeah, and that's a mistake you can never make with New Zealand. New Zealand does that backline, they score, that backline move, that set play, they score. With us, it's like a 50-50. If we get it, it's phenomenal. If we don't, we're like, we try again. But you can't do that against New Zealand, they'll punish you.
Exactly. But again, the people speak so much of the DNA of the Springboks, being like this hard, this
Mm.
hardcore kind of brute game. I think the DNA of New Zealand is just that running rugby, and for them, you're never gonna see. You will see a move, but with the Springboks, it looks almost like, oh no, you know what Tony Brown said, and then if I move right, he's gonna be on my right, and then left. It's like they're trying to remember what the moves are. But hopefully with experience, it will start to look a little bit
Yeah.
smoother. But we're glad to see a little bit more running
Yeah.
from them.
Ella, we
Oh,
just
I
want to
think
say
everyone's glad to see it.
thank you, Ella, for loaning us Tony Brown for the next few years. We
Oh,
Really do
don't.
appreciate it. It's needed. We needed it.
I'm a Highlanders girl, so it's like extra painful, extra painful.
We really do appreciate it. I'm not sure what happened with Mr. Mohammed over there. I think he dropped off.
Oh
But
no.
in his lack of presence, I wanted to say to you, I think I've alluded to this a little bit earlier as well. So in Cape Town, where we are from, we've got
Mm.
almost a majority, not a majority, but a huge part of our population, our rugby-loving community supports the All Blacks. If I can give you an example of this, um, should you go to a graveyard in this area, and I hope you never have to go to a graveyard in this area, but you will be surprised, or do not be surprised, if you see a tombstone with a spring with a New Zealand flag on there.
Wow.
It's hectic, and I wanted to really use this opportunity to ask you, as an actual New Zealander, how does it feel seeing such t- t- tired All Black supporters on the other side of the world?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually pretty awesome in the sense that there has been like such a long history between these two teams, right? And so a lot of that history isn't just about the rugby. And I think
Yeah,
the fact that there are All Black fans in Cape Town speaks to, I guess, kind of the entirety of that relationship, obviously the
yeah,
political side of that
of
relationship,
course, yeah,
um, and the role that I guess New Zealand, I don't want to say has played, but throughout South Africa's history and where New
exactly, yeah.
Zealand has been in that story, good and bad.
Whole lot of history.
So yeah, I think it's it's a really interesting part of the New Zealand South Africa rivalry in rugby, and it's not something you see in many places, right? So it's really special, and I know that the you watch a lot of the interviews with the All Blacks players who are over there, and
It
they think
seems
it's
they
hugely
they they
special.
they really enjoy it. Yeah. No, the reason I wanted to ask you is because I think as of late the Springboks have started to kind of get that support all over the world as well. I think there's this YouTuber who is here at the moment. I can't get to his YouTube, the name of his
Egg
channel,
chasers,
Egg Chasers Rugby. And I mean, it's a very
yeah.
proud kind of feeling knowing that because of what you're doing, it has a huge impact on him. I mean, his whole YouTube is just like Springbok stuff. And yeah,
Mm.
that's pretty much the impact that your team is having on a large part of our community as well. So we've always we like to hear what you think of it as well, because
Yeah,
yeah, no, we have this rivalry within the rivalry within
yeah.
the communities of our own as well, which is super interesting.
Well, and also because there are large. You saw what happened in Perth, right? When
Yeah.
you guys were playing the Wallabies, like this huge South
That
African
was
population in
bad though. There
Perth is
was like a
huge
lack of
in.
Australians, a sincere lack of
Yeah.
Australians there.
So you guys have like the opposite thing of what's happening in Cape Town, but in other places because there's so many
Exactly.
expats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really crazy, but it's all for the love of the game. And this weekend it happens all again. Hopefully, we allow you to do the haka this week because apparently it was a mistake. So I'm sure it was, and hopefully you'll be
Yeah,
able
it
to
definitely
experience
was.
the whole thing without any kind of hurting anyone's feelings or anything like that, right? So we hope it's gonna be a cracker again. We hope it's gonna be a close one again. I'm sure you do too. And from your side, just before we wrap it up, I just received a message from Mr. Mohammed, by the way, and he said that his laptop actually died.
Oh
So I don't know
no.
how exactly planned that, but so I'm going to greet on his behalf. But just before we wrap it up, Ella, we appreciate you having us here, and oh, yeah, yeah, we appreciate you being here, right, on this podcast, and we hope that we will be able to see you in the flesh soon. Hopefully next year. Hopefully, the more you roast the rugby championship Instagram, I don't know, maybe the hate turns into love one day, and they sponsor you, and then you're gonna be here for all the games. We hope that's gonna happen.
Dreams are
That's
free.
gonna happen on your side. But just before we wrap it up, we know it's gonna be a close one this weekend. So what's your score predictions for the game
Ah,
this weekend?
I would like it to be known that I predicted Springboks by 4 last week on the record. So
Really heavy, heavy.
yeah, I've
We'll make
never
sure
got
that
a
we
prediction
we
right in
we
my
make
life.
sure that we're gonna snip that
Uh
up, make it a real.
yeah. Oh, I'm very scared because I think, yeah, the All Blacks were good, but the Springboks were not at their ceiling by any means, and that makes me very frightened of what is to come. And you know that Rusty wouldn't have been happy with that performance from them,
He
so
didn't
he'll
look
be
happy
fired up.
from when they were
No,
when they were having a look at him on the video there. So so he was
I
100%
don't know.
not happy at
I'm
all.
I'm I'm gonna say I'm gonna say All Blacks by 2.
All Blacks by two.
All Blacks.
I'm gonna have to agree with you with that. Look, if and no, no, no. I know
Wow.
it seems being like I'm being a bit negative, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong with all my heart. I hope that I'm wrong. But history is there for a reason, and historically, we do not have a a good record in the mother city. So and as we spoke about quite extensively, the All Blacks have a huge support base on the side as well. So it's going to be a close one, but I think the All Blacks might just run away with it as we did last week. But like I said, I hope I'm wrong. But regardless of the result, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a cracker, and it's going to be another one for the history books and another one to ignite the rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks. We really do appreciate you again being here, Miss Ella, and we hope that you enjoy the game, that you have a lovely week. Just before we wrap up, not that we have the biggest social media following, but if you want to plug your handles, you can do that, and then we can wrap up.
Okay. Yes, thank you for having me. It's been very fun. Always good to chat with some hearty South Africans before a hearty test.
Likewise.
I I am on TikTok at Ella Ferguson 5, and I think I'm on Instagram at Ella Ferguson _5. You can follow me there. Lots of videos, lots of content, lots of roasting of the rugby championship.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that most definitely, Ella. Have a lovely day, and thank you again for joining us. Tools.
Thank you so much.
Okay, cheers. Bye bye.